I also, like, love that you guys probably understand the joke of, like, no one knows what his job is.
Yeah.
Who watches Friends in here?
Me and Leah have watched all the seasons over 200 times.
We should do a survey of what shows you guys watch. Who watches The Office? Who watches Parks and Rec? Who watches shows I probably don't know of? That would be all of your hands. Yeah, it's you guys probably watch shows I am completely unaware of. What? Psych? No. For a second I thought you said Scythe, and I'm like, that's a book. I know that. So, in case you didn't know, Sunday was a holiday. Now, next Sunday is when we move our clocks, or sorry, not this Sunday we moved our clocks, but next Sunday is actually when it becomes spring. This Sunday was an even more important holiday than just moving our clocks. This Sunday was Pi Day. And in perfect timing, I really did not plan this. I could not have even planned this well enough. In perfect timing, we are now starting our unit on circles. So, map is up to date unless you've emailed me today. So please email me if I need to change grades. We'll be taking an Inequalities Mastery next week, I think. Except I planned out the rest of our year. I can even show you guys that at the end of class if you want to see kind of our schedule of the rest of the year. Yeah, I guess I do have it planned out. We'll probably take a mastery. For you guys, we'll be able to take your mastery. I don't know if Blue will get to take it. I gotta figure out a day for them to take it. Like, there's no option of them not taking it. But alright. And I will be collecting notes. I promise. That's not like an empty... Like, I will at some point look at your math binder, notebook. Well, it's probably not a notebook anymore. But these papers that we're completing together, right? Like my guided notes, I will check those out at some point, probably over spring break, if I were to take a guess, because I have time. And my wife is still working, so I will probably still be working, at least for a couple of the days, so I can get a lot of schoolwork done. So, little note about the seating chart. Read it, because you can read. So if you have a strong preference on where you sit, please email me. Even if you are wanting to sit where you sit right now, there's no guarantee I'm going to put you there. So like middle of the room, back of the room, front of the room, by the window, whatever. If you have a strong preference, please email me. Just make the subject line seating chart. So the first thing we're going to do is put on our notes, circle pi up in the header of the notes. And the first thing we're going to notate is a little reminder that Pi Day was last week. Or sorry, it was on Sunday. Sorry, I need to take a second to find. I finally figured out yesterday how I can get more of, make the black bars on the side of the screen smaller. I feel victorious because now it's almost my entire screen. Alright, so Pi Day was on March 14th. In case you're one of the people that's like, okay, so they threw a math holiday on the calendar. No, it's because March 14th's abbreviation is 3.14, and that is the approximate value of pi. So notice I have a squiggly equals here. That's because it's rounded. Pi actually goes on forever, right? Yeah, pi technically has no end. So if somebody tells you to write out exact pi, that's impossible. There is no writing out exact pi. We can only ever write out an approximate pi, unless we just write the pi symbol, and then we're like, there you go, there's pi. But this is actually an infinitely large number. Not infinitely big, keeps getting bigger, but the decimal places keep going. So the first thing I want us to notate is that the center of our circle... Well, guys, this is one case when we're actually going to define a word with a word. Sorry. The center is the center. There's really, you could say middle. But center is actually the best word we have. Because what it means is it's equidistant from every edge. So the distance from the center to the edge is always the same. So you could highlight this too if you want. But so this distance, right? This is always the same. It's a constant distance that we call r, and that's short for the radius. So please write down that the radius is the line from the center to the edge, and an equation to go along with it. You may not know what that means yet, but I'm hoping somebody does. Anyone know what the D in this equation means? Diameter, right? Guys, all of our hands should be moving taking these notes. I doubt you have had a chance to write all this down yet. If you need an individual invitation, just let me know. I will individually invite you to take notes with us. You are correct. So then, and today, so that hopefully maybe we have a little bit of time at the end, I'm probably going to work with like show you and then be quiet so we can write. Diameter, and I think a lot of us already started this practice. Like I know a lot of us did because I checked it in Con. If you haven't, it's totally fine. It is due Friday, right? And some of it you didn't know yet, so totally fine if you did not start it yet. Diameter is like 2 of the radiuses, and I give you a little picture there. So diameter is 2 of the radiuses because it is the distance all the way across the circle. But guys, notice that we can't just say it's a line across the circle. Because this, what I drew in pencil here, I should probably draw it in like a color. This is a line across the circle. That's why we have to say through the center. Sorry, I couldn't write yesterday. I tried to misspell center. I know. Spelling is hard. Math is really hard. This, nothing, just to show that we need to say through the center for diameter. You can't just say line across the circle. So, I guess maybe I should, like, highlight this with that color to indicate, like, that's what I was showing is this is a line across the circle, not the diameter. This actually, if you want to know the name of it, that's what we call a chord. Not C-O-R-D, but chord like in music, actually, guys. C-H-O-R-D. Circum, we should all know from our STEM study, means around. So our circumference, if we start at a point on the circle, and we travel all the way around the circle on the edge, that would be our circumference. Now wait, crust is pi dough. Has Hudson just lost his mind? Oh wait, it's a mnemonic device. What's a mnemonic device? Unless I'm remembering the wrong name for this. Like every little good, or every good boy does fine. Jocelyn? Yeah, so it's just like a memory trick, right? Like, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Like, that's a mnemonic device. Crust is pi dough. Stands for C is pi d, right? Crust is pi dough. But guys, this is our formula for circumference. Our formula for circumference is that crust is pi. Now, what is pi approximately? 3.14, thank you. So this is about 3. Because what you can say is the distance around a circle is about 3 times the distance across it. About 3. It's a little bit over 3, right? The crust is pi dough. So for our first problem down here where they give us the radius, and actually guys, I'm going to show you both of these first problems. So let's do these two together, and then I'll let you fly on your own. You can if you want to. These are a tad bit easier. Like, these equations are kind of straightforward. So I'm going to leave it up to you if you write out D equals 2 times R first. But I'm at least going to show 2 times what I plugged in. So this radius of 3. Did I? What did I just say? No, I said easier. Ooh, but that's dangerous, and we'll talk about why in just a second. I'm serious. That's dangerous. It can get you wrong answers.
And that's why I kept getting them wrong in Khan Academy.
Did you read? I'll show you exactly why you kept getting them wrong. Boom! Which we'll talk about this on the back. Where it says use 3.14 for pi, you weren't. I should text Chris right now and be like, you know better. Read carefully. Who what? Oh, he wasn't actually helping you. He was being like Big Brother annoying. Oh, okay.
No. I didn't understand why I was getting it wrong.
It gets different answers. Yeah. All right, so then down here we apply our formula for circumference equals pi times diameter, or crust is pi dough, if you want to use that little memory trick. Now, just to practice, we know that if the diameter is 18, the radius would be half of it, so we could draw that in there as 9, but we don't really need that when we go to do our formula. So when we go to calculate it in our calculator, we get 56.52, or, dangerous trapdoor. Did I change your notes to say trapdoor or something? No, not till the back. Yeah, I didn't do this till the back. All right, well, my warning for this is on the back, but guys, on your calculator, Madeline is right. We have a button that is the pi button. However, if I use the pi button, and I do, I'll clear this out, 18 pi, I get one answer, versus if I do 18 times 3.14, I get a different answer. At the hundredths place, even just at the hundredths place, 5.4 versus 5.2, these are substantially different numbers. It's like being 2 pennies short to buy something. They won't let you buy it, even if you're 2 cents short. Now, hopefully they've got a little give a penny, take a penny thing. But this is a different number. So when Khan Academy tells us to use 3.14 for pi, it's because it wants us getting the rounded answer so that we all agree. If you don't use the rounded 3.14 and you use exact pi, it depends on your calculator for how many decimal places it's going to give you. Which, can you see how that's going to be an issue? If Isis gets one answer, Madeline gets a different answer, and like Victor gets another, and we're all close, we're all similar, but we get 3 different answers. Now, Isis might be the most exact, but that doesn't make Madeline's answer wrong, technically. It's just rounded differently. So that we can all agree, Khan often has this warning of use 3.14 if you're going to give the decimal answer. However, Khan also often says, hey, if you don't want to give the decimal answer, it's actually better and a bit more right if we just say our answer is circumference is 18 pi units. We can literally just write 18 pi. And we know that that would be multiplied, but we just write 18 pi. And that's the most exact that we can get, is if we say 18 pi. If we don't say 18 pi, we got to use the 3.14. And that gets us the 56.52. Try the other ones on your own. I know you might be able to see some of mine. Actually, you can't really. So up at the top, you're finding the diameter, and then careful, you're finding the radius in the third one in the middle section. Either of these will be accepted, either 18 pi or 56.52, but 56.54 will not be, right? Because that we used exact pi and got a different decimal. If we get the decimal answer, they want us getting the rounded answer. So we use rounded pi. Yeah. Yep. So you could just write it as 7 pi. Now, assuming Khan says you can give your answer in terms of pi. That's we're going to highlight that on the back and talk about the terminology. As long as it says that, you can give the pi answer. Ooh, I should get out random cards. You guys have been missing my random cards, haven't you? Amelia, if up in the middle section, when the radius is 8, what is the diameter? If the radius is 8, what is the diameter? Ah, you went backwards. So remember, the diameter is the bigger one. So if we look up here at our picture, the diameter is the one that has 2 radiuses. You acted like you were answering this question, so be careful. This one's 16. Make sure that we go change that on our paper. So you might want to make the reminder of diameter being double the radius. You just went backwards. You just cut it in half. So over here, in the next problem, is where we use that radius is the diameter divided by 2. So we do 10 divided by 2, and we get 5. And guys, these U's, what do these U's stand for? Units. Because no naked numbers. They'll get in trouble. Plus you're on that kind of beach, right? We had a kid once, we were talking about international travel, like for the Phoenix trip. And they're like, are we going to go to a naked beach? And we're like, yes, we're going to take a school trip to a naked beach. And they're like, really? We're like, no! No! Why would you think that we would do that? So Madeline already kind of said this out loud, but Madeline, you want to say it again for this circle problem down here, what our circumference will be? Yeah, either 7 pi, or if we want to get the decimal answer, we got to use 3.14, and we get 21.98. Guys, please make sure you have this work written down. I do not want to give people check minuses and missings on the notes check, and it's really frustrating when I know you had time during class to do it, and then I make you go back and redo it because you didn't do it, because for some reason you decided to have a bad attitude and not take notes. These are for your benefit. They're so you can answer your questions in Khan. The final circle over here, a little bit tougher because it involves decimals. They give us the radius of 4.2. We double it to get the diameter of 8.4. And we do exactly like what Madeline said. We could either, I'm going to put that answer down here again, say 8.4 pi or 26.37. Well, depends on where they want us to round. This would probably round off to 3.8, like 26.38, probably. Not 100% sure. I feel like I have a splinter. But maybe it's just my skin is super dry. Any questions from the entire front of the page? All right, so now for the back to make sense, I got to Yeah. I got to show you something for the back of this to make sense. Here, you want me to zoom back into the bottom part? As you flip the paper, do not look at that circle as shaded and unshaded. Look at it as a, this is not a good joke. If Michigan just straight up didn't have to play Ohio State, they would probably throw a party because it's the we avoided losing party. My sister-in-law is from Michigan. So in case you don't watch football or care about it, Michigan and Ohio State have a big rivalry. And Ohio State, always wins. But, always. Michigan's coach, I think, got fired because he hasn't, beat Ohio State in so long. So this is actually yellow and blue. It is not shaded and unshaded. It's yellow and blue, right? So as we flip to the back, please realize we're looking at that entire cake. So let's say that my sister-in-law Sarah has made this Michigan didn't have to play Ohio State cake. And so it's the we didn't lose, right? Not that they won. It's the we didn't lose cake. And she realizes, oh man, the only thing I have to transport this in is a rectangular box, right? And she actually she lives here. Her parents live up in Michigan. So you got to transport it, right? So Sarah takes the cake and she cuts it all up into slices, 8 blue slices and 8 yellow slices. And she rearranges all of these slices to fit into a rectangular cake. 1 slice up, 1 slice down. Anyone ever do this with like pizza? Like you're putting away leftovers and you're like, I gotta like rearrange these, or you just like take a bite out of it so it fits in the container. It's come on. So guys, check it though. If she did this distance right here, what's the distance from the center of the cake out to the edge? It's the radius. And in one of the one of the yellow slices, she cuts that slice in half because otherwise this would be more like a parallelogram. So here, you don't really have to do anything with me right now. I just kind of want you to watch. So this slice over here, right? We cut this piece off and brought it over here. So there are 7 full yellow slices, and then half there, 8 full blue slices. Now, this is essentially a rectangle, except for these tiny little dimples, right? But that's icing. That's going to squish, right? It's icing. It'll be okay. So this distance is half of the circumference, right? The whoop, 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 whoop for the 8 slices that we actually just kind of squished together. So instead of being pi times the diameter, that's our normal circumference, right? Pi times diameter, it's pi times the radius, because the radius is half of the diameter. So guys, it's okay if this doesn't make a ton of sense. I'm showing you why the formula is what it is. So here, I'll even highlight to help this out a little bit. Check it. So these blue slices, here, here, here. I know this looks like a beach ball. It's all I can think of. Those blue sections are what ends up being down here. And that is half of our circumference around the circle. So the full circumference would be pi times diameter. But our blue is actually half of the circumference. And when we do that, diameter divided by 2 is radius. So that's how we get pi times radius. And then the distance from the middle to the edge of the cake is also the radius. So guys, when we go to calculate the area of this rectangle, my base is not heavy enough, I cannot believe it. We do the length times the width. Please write this down. Area equals pi times r times r. The length is pi times r, and the width is r. So the length is pi times r, the width is r. A number times itself, like r times r, is that number squared. Sorry, adjusting my arm here. Yeah, so instead of writing radius times radius, we can just write radius squared, because this is more efficient. So guys, the mnemonic device that you'll hear for area of a circle is that pi's r square. I don't like that at all, because it's really area is pi times radius squared. I don't like the mnemonic device that people try to use with this. I would just remember the formula. And guys, the label, I did not write this down last time. The label is always something squared, right? For area, the label's always something squared. Centimeters squared, inches squared, feet squared, miles squared. Area is always squared. So that's the other way that we can kind of try to remember that the area formula uses the square. Guys, here's the other formula that makes me very scared that someone's going to help you with your math and you're going to end up really confused. Circumference can also be written pi times radius times 2. You do not need to write this down at the moment. But guys, look at this. This is pi times d. Because if circumference is pi times d, radius times 2 is the diameter. And if you write out pi r2, pi r2, it uses the same stuff. So guys, this is like, be careful. This is why I don't use this circumference formula. It's true. I just don't use it. I always think about crust equals pi dough. I always use the diameter because this one's more like this one confuses your brain a little bit. Use whatever you want, but that's just my caution to you. That's what I've seen happen in the past. So, if we want to apply this, we got to be careful though. This is where Madeline has been having some issues. Sorry, you told me you were... I'm just going to tell the class. So Madeline's been getting answers wrong, but she hasn't been wrong. And actually, her brother, who I also taught, sounds like he was not very helpful when he said, well, you got to read. Con says this. Find the area of a circle with a radius of 8, but then down here, in slightly not so bold text, they say either enter an exact answer where we use the pi symbol. This is called in terms of pi. So guys, I'm going to give you a minute to write this workout and catch back up with me. And then I'll talk through the problem again. All right, so I'm going to scooch this over so you can see all of it. Guys, my highlighting, color coding is on purpose, right? What is yellow, what is orange. They go together. So if you're highlighting, please make those correspond. If I say Mr. Johnson, you guys know who I'm talking about, right? Do you guys think he would fit as a Phoenix teacher? We can't hire him yet. Like, he's still in school, if you didn't know that. That's why he's a guest teacher. I just really hope that we can hire him in a year. That is one of the things that he'll be able to teach. So that's interesting that you pegged that. Can you think what else he might be allowed to teach? That's not an actual thing.
Maybe math.
You know, I would... science. He's going for science and social studies. All right, so why I highlighted yellow with yellow. The exact answer is the one that uses the pi symbol. Now, we have to remember... what we're actually talking about is something that's about triple the number, like a little bit over triple the 64. But if we're referencing everything using pi numbers, guys, we can compare 64 pi to 20 pi and just compare them together. As long as both numbers are in pi, it works real easy. But if you are a decimal lover and you want to go ahead and calculate your decimal answer, you just have to be careful that you use 3.14. So when we do that in our calculator, and guys, if you don't have a calculator, you should probably grab one and practice this just to make sure that you're getting the correct answers. So if you don't have a calculator at your desk right now, I would probably grab one. Like, just get up and grab one. So if we're down on the next two, I'll help you with one and show you what I'm wanting and then kind of send you free for at least 5 minutes. I want you to find the radius and diameter and circumference and area. Woo, stacking stuff on. So, whatever's given, work from that. Now, the reason I have this color-coded like this, remember, actually, everyone put pencils down for a second. Pencils down for a second. Calculators down, everything down, eyes up. Guys, the biggest confusion that people have when it comes to working with numbers like this is in a situation right here. And this is why I put this on our notes. If you have a circle with a radius of 1, which is actually called the unit circle, but you don't need to know that right now. When we do the math, and I want you to copy this in a moment, don't right now. Circumference is the diameter times pi, right? So diameter is 2, since the radius was 1. We get 6.28 units, right? Gotta have a label. Area, oh man, area uses radius squared. Sorry, that's squared, not a z, in case anyone thinks that's a z. So I do pi times radius. Wait, what's 1 times 1? Crap, it's just 1. 1 times 1 is 1, and I get 3.14. Guys, this number is not smaller than this number. It's apples and oranges. And if you've never heard that phrase, please keep listening. I cannot compare these things. So if Madeline shows up and she's like, hey, I got 10 apples, and I'm like, but Madeline, we're making orange juice. It doesn't matter that how many apples she has is irrelevant. I want oranges. This is units for distance around. This is units squared for the space on the inside of this. Like how much water is in the middle of this versus how many stones do I need to go around it. Area is always talking about two-dimensional space. Right? Two-dimensional space in the middle. Circumference is just talking about distance. I just wanted to take a moment so we could talk about, we cannot actually compare these numbers because they have two different labels. Now, please copy that and go ahead and try the next ones. I'm going to give you at least 5 minutes where I'm not talking and you just get a chance to try this on your own. Yeah, sorry guys, the only issue with you guys highlighting is it bleeds through the front of the paper, so be careful if you highlight super heavy. It's gonna bleed through. You're taking the shortcut. You know what I mean? It's writing your workout that lets you know that you're correct. You can think that you're right all day long, but if you write your workout, then you know that you're right. Yeah, guys, feel free to work ahead. The next two problems are what I need you to do, but then the next two after that at the very bottom, those are like challenge problems, and we're going to start on those on Thursday. So these, I just cut that text out of them since we were doing them together. You can put your answer however you want. So right now, we're just doing these together, right? In con, I think it always says use 3.14 for pi. If you're switching into decimals. So essentially what I'm saying is don't use the pi button on your calculator. Use 3.14, like type in 3.14. Now, when you get beyond, like up into higher math, they might say use exact pi. Because if you're multiplying by like 1,000,000, then those decimal places matter. So Jocelyn, in our next circle, if the radius is 7 and the diameter is 14, what's our circumference? Yeah, either 14 pi or 43.9. Now be careful. 43.9, is it 6 or 2? Okay, perfect. And then our area, you want to keep going, Jocelyn? Yeah, I would get your pi answer first and then get your decimal answer, just because this is essentially showing your work. Because, guys, we could write radius squared first, right? We could write the area formula as radius squared times pi, which just lets us show our work and find the pi answer first. Sorry, I didn't mean to show the third one yet. I was going to keep giving you guys time. But hey, we're here now, I guess. Anybody, for the third one, when we square our radius, what do we get? When we square our radius? Just anybody, shout it out. 25. Yeah, 25. So we get 25 pi. Or when we go to the decimal, we get? Anybody? Okay. 78.5. Please make sure you're trying these on your own. Now, I want us to spend the final time, and the only thing that I am going to write down, on these problems where it asks us to find the area of the circle with a circumference of something, well, what we know about circumference is it is pi times diameter. Right? And since Con tells us use 3.14 for pi, we can write our formula out as 3.14 times diameter. We only got about 5 minutes left. Can you figure out a way to work like backwards and then, I don't want the answer, we got to give other people time to work. Can you remember how to do the algebra, right? The equation solving that we've been practicing? This is where it all ties back together. Can you find the areas here? Make sure that you have a label. Make sure that you have your power correct. And remember, we use radius to find area. We will start on those tomorrow. I'll come around with wipes in just a couple minutes. But I want you to just work on those for a moment. Anyone have any questions on finding these areas up here? I'm probably just going to show this for another minute so you got that to look at if you need. You've had school like well, not last week because it was a special week, but you have school like every Friday from now until like May. Well, except for spring break. That's a thing.
Also, thing that MIT did for their acceptance letters, that they sent out their acceptance letters at 3:14 on Friday.
Huh. That's awesome. I think we're doing a cookout next Friday. We are? Okay, well, good.
I was asking you.
Oh, I thought you were telling me. Well, aren't you supposed to know? You're in charge.
What?
You're in charge of the cookout.
Oh, well, if that's the case, anarchy and pyromaniac.
You know pyromaniacs are the people, right? You mean pyrotechnics? Like, let's blow stuff up?
That would work. But, like, I meant, like, let's start anarchy and let's have pyromaniac.
Why anarchy? What are we anarchying against?
Against everything.
Against the man?
Against people with allergies to peanuts.
What did they do? They didn't choose their allergy.
I don't know. That's the best thing I can think of on the spot.
That's the problem with trying to think of something on the spot. Sorry, you're reading a book, what? About people with allergies? I was about to say, maybe it was Miriam. She sounds like she's trying to lead an uprising.
since the circumference is the same.
Not pi times radius squared. It's pi times radius times 2. Hey, so that's worth reviewing because I want to make sure that we're not confused. Yo, let me take back over for a second. When we wrote this up here, the reason I was showing you this is to show you that it can get confusing, but this is still, for circumference, this is multiplication by 2. That is different than when we square something, because that was multiplication by itself. So in circumference, we're doubling the radius, and in area, we're actually multiplying the radius times itself. So that is what leads to this number for circumference being a bigger number than this number. But remember, we can't actually compare them because their labels are different. For area, the label always gets squared. And for circumference, our label is just what it is. So like units is units versus unit squared is a square unit. So guys, remember, I'm going to show you another example, hopefully decent. If I make the width of my note card 1 unit. Scissors. Remember that this distance, that is a unit. A unit squared is that whole thing. So remember, this edge is like your circumference, right? It's the edge. The unit squared is the whole thing. So this is where